Welcome back from that break. It's still your favorite show, Good Morning Abuja, showing on the Unity Station, NTA Channel 5, Abuja. Now, one issue that has come up of recent is the impact of reopening the border on the economy. Different school of thoughts and people have different opinions about this. But I have someone who will do justice to this topic, and he is Engineer Daniel Onotu. He's an agric business consultant. Welcome to the show, Mr. Daniel.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, good to have you on the show.
Thank
you. We are discussing the impact of reopening the border on the economy. Now, the border, there must have been reasons why the border was closed in the first place, shouldn't there? And then now it's been reopened. What's your assessment of this? What do you make of this?
Yes, the government thought it wise to close the borders in order to encourage Nigerian farmers to grow what they eat. In the words of our president or former president, grow what you eat and eat what you grow. And this also is to empower farmers and give them the ability to compete locally.
Okay.
That's one of the reasons why the borders were closed. And it also prevents the influx of either goods, especially agro-commodity, from entering into the country illegally, thereby, edging out some of our farmers, those that may have invested so much into agriculture. And it actually paid off to a great extent. We saw the impact, especially on rice production in Nigeria. A lot of foreign organizations partnered with Nigerian entrepreneurs, set up rice mills across the country. Also, the government invested hugely to support rice processing, and we saw a significant increase in the volume of rice that was produced within the period that the borders were closed.
Okay.
Yes.
So now that it's been reopened, there are people that think, oh, why close and then now you're opening it? We're used to it, just leave the borders closed. What's your take on this? Do you think it's a wise decision at this point to reopen the borders? Other people are even scared. Okay, now that the borders are reopened, who is checking what is coming in? Are we going to have a lot of fake products, even products that are poisonous, into an influx of such products into our economy?
Oh yes, there are two things I'll quickly respond to. The first is the fact that reopening of the borders is, if it actually is approved and the borders are reopened, it's going to give room for resurrecting about 40% of the cross-border transactions that take place. Some of them are not formally documented.
Okay.
Yes. And a lot of people actually lost some form of livelihood when the borders were closed. So such people may be able to go back to business. And those are the category of people that will be excited to hear that the borders are reopened. And that 40% of business has a significant impact on our GDP in Nigeria. And so you may find people who will go back to their former business of either bringing goods into Nigeria or taking goods out of Nigeria. On the other hand, the issue of substandard goods coming into this country, I will respond to it from two different dimensions.
Okay.
One of the first is we have institutions that have been empowered to monitor and to check what goes in and what comes out of the country. But my background being agric, and I work with farmers, I know that many farmers desire the opportunity to take their produce out of this country. For example, I was in Sokoto some months ago, and millions of naira worth of onions is being, transported out of Nigeria, and they also bring in millions, if not billions, worth of goods into Nigeria through the borders there in Sokoto State. That business, if the government takes advantage of that and creates the enabling environment for such business to be done. Some of the business is not even done in Naira, it's done in the Niger CFAs or so, you know. If the government can pay attention to that, it will really encourage people to and then they can sanitize that process. It can encourage people to invest more in that trade that is going on, and it can also have a positive impact on the Nigerian economy.
Okay. The government has introduced new measures to prevent smuggling and ensure compliance with trade regulations. Do you think these measures will be effective?
Oh yes, sure. Although smugglers somehow they try to get smarter each time.
Okay.
You more or less have to be steps ahead of them. I've seen, in quotes, innovative ways that people smuggle things either out or even into the country. But like I try to explain, government institutions must begin to introduce modern technology in order to help monitor and record what goes in and comes out of the country. Those efforts can only be improved if they are well equipped. They must invest more in modern technology and equipment in order to help detect such illegal transactions that take place.
Okay. So on this issue of border reopening, you know, there are so many sides to it. Of recent, we've been hearing stories of a new disease that comes from eating pomo. And you know, pomo and bushmeat, and you know, Nigerians, when it comes to meat, we're there. whatever kind of form it comes in, we're there. And our borders are being reopened at this time where this disease is said to have, I think they said in Ghana, you know. So, and I know we have borders there too, and borders everywhere with other African countries. Do you think it's a wise decision now, because people are scared?
Yes. First of all, I would like to say that the real concern for us should be to empower local production. If local production is encouraged, then there will be reduced dependence on external produce.
Even if our borders are
opened. So if your borders are open, but you have what you need, there will be no business going to look for it elsewhere. And one way to really help, because I play a role in Global Gap, as a Global Gap licensed farm assurer, we train farmers on best agronomic practices for producing crop. There are also those who are specializing in animal, breeding and husbandry. So what we should focus on is empower farmers to produce the best within the country, and there will be no need to go out.
Okay. I also believe in that, because if we're empowered, however our borders are reopened or they can be, we always have what we need within. Okay.
Yes.
So how can small-scale businesses and traders benefit from the reopening of the border, and what support can the government give to ensure that small-scale farmers and small-scale business people are not left out?
Oh yes, I believe the government is already doing certain things about it. There are some zones within the country that have been identified as export-free zones, and the design of such, the impact of such design to the economy is to enable small businesses have a level playing field where they can bring goods in or out of the country without the burden of extra cost.
Okay.
So small businesses must become more innovative, must begin to improve their technology in doing things like repackaging. For example, Zobo, our hibiscus, red hibiscus, can be packaged from Nigeria to other countries across the globe. Instead of selling it as dry leaves, It can be packaged as tea, as a finished product, but you need small businesses to invest in this.
Okay.
So there is a big opportunity for small businesses to begin to invest in, cottage industries, producing finished goods that can find its place in international markets and across Africa.
Okay, we'll hold that thought right there and we'll go on a short break. We now go on a short break. When we come back, Good Morning Abuja will continue, and we will continue this conversation on reopening of borders. Stay with us on the Unity Station.
You're interested in being up to date with the pacey world of sports? Our rebranded Capital Sports is the finest bet for your doing so.
So, join us every Thursday live at 3 p.m. on NTA Channel 5 Abuja to talk sports for your viewing pleasure. Remember, you can be a part of this #1 sporting program. Join us on the analysis, views and opinions.
Nothing but Allah, Ba is the beginning of Bismillah. Ta is for taqwa, bewaring of Allah, and Tha is for thawab, a reward. Ja is for Jannah, the garden of
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Welcome to your weekly guide, Light of Islam. I am Aisha Ahmed.
As Muslims, we know that in Islam, time is a very good and important commodity that we have.
Believe in the angels of God as one of the 6 articles of faith.
Dhamma is in form rows, and how the rows are made is such that the Imam stands in front and then right behind him.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Light of Islam. Keep watching Light of Islam, NTA channel.
Welcome back from that break. My guest is still in the studio, Engineer Daniel Onutu, an agri-business consultant, and he has been telling us a lot that we need to do to move this nation forward, even with the reopening of the borders, how small-scale businesses can also benefit. Thank you so much. You've been a good, you've been responding very well. Thank you for all your responses. Now, to continue that conversation, what can government do to encourage farmers? And we have a new government in power now. So what do you think that this new government can do that is different from what has been done before to encourage farmers?
Definitely. I trust that with the new government, there will be new blood flowing into the system.
Okay.
There will be new ideas. I'm very, very sure about that. And with the person and the antecedents of the president, he's known to be someone who has been able to bring bright brains together. But here is 1 or 2 things I think the government should focus on. The farmers in Nigeria are responsible, or rather, we have 70% of small-scale farmers, or what we call, small-scale farmers, let me refer to them as that, responsible for producing most of the food we eat in Nigeria. And so that number of people, they form a large percentage of our population. If they receive support from government, you'll be empowering millions of Nigerians. And one of the major ways you can support farmers, let me tell you something interesting. Farmers, they are committed, they are experienced. Some of them have been in the business of farming for many years, but because of the advancement in technology, many of them are losing ground to commercial farms. So government should be able to bring technology to the peasant farmers, to the smallholder farmers.
Okay.
If the government can invest in systems where agricultural extension service or extension agents are able to take technology to the farmers to enable them compete with more commercial established farms, you will be empowering millions of people in this country. And I think that's one thing the government should be considering.
Okay.
Taking technology to the farmers.
Okay. All right, now we're still in the month of democracy, the month where we celebrated Democracy Day. And one of the things I know with that is ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Now, we always ask, what can government do to improve this? What can government do? What should government, government. In your thoughts, what do you think that private individuals can do to support the government, to ensure that we do not have food scarcity? We do not, that our farmers do not produce all these products and it just goes to waste. There are states in Nigeria that when you pass through, you're almost weeping. Take Benue, for instance. You pass through Benue, you see mango, you see oranges, just wasting. Aren't there private individuals that can do something? Let's leave government now. Government this, government that. No. Aren't there private individuals that can do? Can't we do something about all these fruits wasting? How about tomatoes? You spoke about onions, right? In your response, you said you went to Sokoto and it's just wasting away. What can we do to avoid all these wastages?
Yes, it's true. We should think about what we can do for the country. And I must tell you that there are a lot of private organizations that are doing a lot, especially to impact the Nigerian economy. To add to that, we can do much more, really. We only depend on government to create an enabling environment.
Okay.
So once the enabling environment is there, I'm very, very certain that younger people will be encouraged to play in the space where they had venerated the thought they couldn't play in such spaces before.
Okay.
If enabling environment is there and the structures or the facilities that the government can provide to enable small-scale businesses thrive. Talk about power, for example, talk about roads, access roads. If those things are there, people will do things without being asked. And I know that Nigerians are very industrious.
We are.
Yes.
All right. So, most young people, you are an engineer and you're an expert in the agric business. You're a consultant in the agric business. Most young people, once you talk about farming or they hear agric, you've set them off. It's not a place they would want to be. Like everybody wants to be somewhere nice, all those white collar jobs where you would see that money comes in rapidly. What is your advice to youths towards farming? These are your parting words on the program. Towards farming and agriculture.
Yes, I've always loved agriculture from my childhood, and
Okay.
I'm sure I'm not an exception. There are millions of youths who just have the flair for nature and they love the environment. But I think the scare may be how profitable is it. I had to resign from a managerial position, from a job I worked for 12 years,
Okay.
to focus on my agric business,
Okay.
because I believe that agribusiness is profitable. And I will tell you that what I had handled financially within the space of 1 year working in my agribusiness is more than what I had handled for 12 years working for a non-agric related business.
Okay.
Agric is profitable. And with the introduction of technology, the sky is just the limit.
All right. Thank you so much, Engineer Daniel Onotu, for coming on our program.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. I have been conversing with Engineer Daniel Onutu, an agribusiness consultant, and we've been discussing the reopening of the borders. The thing he said that I really love is, let's all go back to agriculture. There's so much money in there. Since everybody wants to blow, we can all go and blow in the agric field or in the agric sector. Now, good morning, Abuja will continue shortly after this time out. Please stay with us on NTA Channel 5 Abuja.